We were told that the World Trade Center was going to collapse. We were told that the World Trade Center was going to collapse.
Giuliani admitted he knew the World Trade Center was going to collapse before it did. But when questioned about it, he says he wasn't told that.
You said it on ABC video with Peter Jennings in an interview that you were aware that towers were going to collapse in advance. We'd like to know who told you the towers were going to collapse in advance, sir? And also we'd like to know who else you told.
Well, the fact is that I didn't realize the towers would collapse. I never realized that.
We were told that the World Trade Center was going to collapse.
We have to ask ourselves if 9/11 was really carried out by Bin Laden and Al-Qaeda.
So I don't know where he is. Nor, I just don't spend that much time on him.
Why does half of America think it was an inside job? That's 150 million people. If Bin Laden was really responsible, do you think there would be such a massive truth movement, hundreds of books published, and hundreds of films released with such opposition to the official story? Don't you find it striking that not one major media figure has public doubts about the official story? If the media truly represented Americans, why isn't there even one column in the New York Post or any major publication that is skeptical about 9/11? In an address to the Trilateral Commission, David Rockefeller said the following, quote, "We are grateful to the Washington Post, the New York Times, Time Magazine, and other great publications whose directors have attended our meetings and respected their promises of discretion for almost 40 years. It would be impossible for us to develop our plan for the world if we are subject to the bright lights of publicity," unquote. Could that be the reason why the major media never disagrees with the official 9/11 story? And what does he mean by developing plans for the world?
What I'm about to say is fact. The secret organizations of the world power elite are no longer secret. They have planned and are now leading us into a one-world communist government. The combining of national governments started with the European Union. That union started with trade agreements, then a common currency, the euro, and now a European Parliament that is feverishly passing laws that override the laws of the member nations. A constitution was drafted but rejected by a few of those nations, but never mind. They implemented it anyway. Now it's North America's turn. We will have a new currency, the Amero, and a new constitution modeled on the Soviet Union's constitution. Our rights will not be inalienable, but they will be granted by government, who can also take them away. You will have a national ID card with a radio frequency chip in it. You will not be able to move about freely. This is terrorism of the most worst kind, brought on you by our own government.
If you are new to this information right now, you might be feeling confused because your brain is dealing with two different versions of reality. One version is the government's and media's version you have been hypnotized and conned into believing. If that statement makes you angry, that is just because the propaganda self-defense mechanism is working. You might be thinking, well, I love my country and I support the president, and that is the patriotic view. Well, that is total propaganda. America is the Constitution and Bill of Rights. Two things Bush is destroying one piece of legislation at a time. Supporting the troops is making sure they only go to battle and risk their lives if it's absolutely necessary. Besides, 72% of them want the war to end because it's a war based on lies. Support the troops by helping bring them home. Crooked propaganda minions like Bill O'Reilly will try and force you to think a certain way because it's the patriotic way of thinking. Well, that can't be farther from the truth. Real patriots like the Constitution and Bill of Rights right where it is, and real patriots oppose one world government and the lies that are meant to trick you and usher it in. In this next clip, O'Reilly and Letterman get into a serious debate over the Iraq War. Letterman stops his comedic routine and poses some serious questions, which the audience agrees with. Before we watch it, remember, Americans aren't getting killed in Iraq liberating the Iraqi people. They are getting killed by Sunni and Shiite extremists. That's where the term freedom fighter comes from, which seems offensive to loved ones who have lost family members and friends to the war. But they shouldn't be hostile towards the people who use the term. They must understand the true nature of the war, and understand the troops are unaware of such atrocities. It's called mass mind manipulation to push forward a one-world government. The real reason the occupation is taking place is not to fight terrorism, but to establish permanent bases in the Middle East, and to go after Iran and Syria. This plan is all laid out in PNEC's report from the year 2000.
And this is a serious question. Do you want the United States to win in Iraq?
Well, you know, in the beginning, here was my position in the beginning, and I think I sort of felt the way everybody did. We felt like we wanted to do something because something terrible had been done to us. We did not understand exactly why. All we knew was something terrible, something heinous, something obscene had been done to us. So while it didn't necessarily make as much sense to go into Iraq as it did perhaps going into Afghanistan, I, like most everybody else, felt like, yes, we need to do something. We need to do something. And as the weeks turned into months and into years, and one death became a dozen deaths, and 100 deaths, and 1,000 deaths, then we began to realize, you know what, maybe we're causing more trouble over there than the whole effort has been worth.
Possible. But do you want, right now, do you want the United States to win in Iraq?
First of all, I don't...
It's an easy question. If you don't want the United States to win in Iraq...
It's not easy for me because I'm thoughtful. How about that? That was a good one.
That was great, Dave. You get paid for those.
No, but what I would like would be for Americans to stop dying and for there to be stability in that part of the world. Now, if that means an American victory, okay. But I'm not sure that you can have stability in that part of the world with or without an American presence now.
But here's the deal. You can object to the policy in Iraq.
That wasn't the reason we went over there.
No,
we went over there because there was weapons of mass destruction. It turned out there were no weapons of mass destruction.
Right. The United States government believed that Saddam had a WMDs, okay? And they were wrong. People make mistakes in war. Now, Tony Blair was wrong, Colin Powell was wrong, all these people were wrong.
So that means we've made a mistake in war, so we stay there and kill as many Americans as we possibly can. That's the way you get out of a mistake.
No.
There were no mistakes in the lead-up to the Iraq War. All of the bad intelligence was known to be faulty by those using it to try and persuade the American public.
Who wanted the bad intel? Who said, give me that stuff?
Cheney did. He goes to the Situation Room and said, we know Saddam's a bad guy. Give me stuff. And they'd bring in a case. They'd bring in what they could, and they said, no, this isn't good enough. I can't sell a war on this. I want everything. And then he cherry-picked this trash. It was total propaganda. They went to the CIA, they went to the Pentagon, to Doug Feith, and said, give us talking points so we can go to war. And that's when Tenet's slam dunk came in. He says, yes, we can sell this case to the American people, but the Middle East is complicated, and that's the way they got away with it. You know, in the famous Ata-Ani meeting in Prague, where
never happened.
Never happened. The FBI and the CIA said categorically it never happened. Yet they continued to run with this story, convinced 70-some% of Americans Saddam is a lie. This is truly the big lie. It's nonsense. They know where Zarqawi was. He was in Pakistan.
He wasn't Al-Qaeda.
He wasn't Al-Qaeda. And it's nonsense. It was a mistake. And the officers who supposedly handled the relations between Saddam and bin Laden have come out and now work for American